All right, you're asking for it, so here it is.
Epicast.
Listen to this.
I want you fucks laughing at we partners pod, kid. You understand? We in here drinking, singing, singing, all that shit, dog. We sweating, getting wet, and all that.
All right. Yes, sir. All right, welcome to a special live episode of the Drinking Partners Podcast, coming straight from Fresh Fest 2019. Fresh Fest! We are in the building. We are strong. For those who do not know, I am half of your hosting tandem, Ed Bailey. I'm joined as always, but I got a new partner because I don't know this dude over here. Uh-oh. This dude got the suns out, guns out going on. And he got all the taco meats. That's my boy Dave Bracey. Say what up to the people.
What's good with you people?
All right. Look at that soft flex.
We are the Drinking Partners, and if you're looking for us, you can find us at Fresh Fest 2019. You can also find us on epicastnetwork.com/partnerspod. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, Google Play, and Spotify under Drinking Partners. You can find us on IG, Twitter, and Facebook at PartnersPod. This is a very special episode, but we're going to ask you anyway, man. Please hop on iTunes, hop on Facebook, rate and review. That's how we know we're doing well. That's how we let others know that we're doing well. And that's how we continue to do well, man. So please, hop on iTunes, hop on Facebook, rate and review.
Hop on anything on the internet. But before we get started, I just want to acknowledge, man, this is a beautiful, to say this is a beautiful scene would be a vast understatement, man. Give it up for yourselves.
Yeah.
Packing this shit out. VIP brown as shit. We are proud. We are pleased to see you all. But I think they just want us to get right in. Our guests, they don't want to hear us.
Yeah, they're here for us. Yeah, I mean,
they got 200-some episodes of us.
Yeah, y'all sick of us, man. We got a very special guest here.
Very special.
All the way out of Brooklyn, New York.
The headmaster of Brooklyn Brewery. The man, the myth, the legend. Mr. Renaissance himself. Everybody give it up for Garrett Oliver. Say what up to the people.
Good to be here, guys. Normally, I might wear the Crown Prince of hats. Today, I brought the Playboy Prince.
Ooh.
Playboy Prince isn't seen that often, so it's
we got a special hat for a
Playboy
special
Cardi
occasion.
out
special
here.
occasion.
Wow.
You gotta be stepping my hat game up because I can't. With a dad hat, you can't.
I ain't even nearly as fresh.
Can't curtsy the dad hat.
You got more hair. You don't need any hat, so you're doing fine.
No, you got the flat top. You good? You in there?
I'm still hanging in there, but
You in there. And you're in the building. We're very
I got
happy.
out of the game when I was like 6. I ain't had a hairline since I left the crib, so
He shaved his arms too, though. He shaved his arms.
had to get a nice wax going on. I ain't mad at it. Now I'm out here working. I'm waiting for a shirt to get in this money. Oh, y'all bought up all the shirts, man. I ain't got none. I'm waiting for one to come in. It'll be all right. I'll be fresher at some point. You know what I mean? I know y'all intimidated by these guns. It's all right. You'll see all that security out there. They let me in there. They know I'm safe. You know what I mean?
All right, enough. You give him one compliment.
Until later. I am totally
You give your
pumped.
mans one compliment. So for those who do not know, I know everyone in the building is familiar, but we do have some people who listen to us on the internet. So let people know who you are, how you came into the beer game.
Well, I am Garrett Oliver. I am the brewmaster of Brooklyn Brewery for the last... Thank you. And I am 400 years old. I have always been here like Dracula. I have crossed oceans of time to be with you. So, this is a beautiful occasion for me because I've been, in this game for 30 years, and I have never, ever seen a room like this. I was in Africa,
Yeah.
I was sitting as the chair, whatever, for the Africa Beer Cup in South Africa several weeks ago, and even that room didn't look like this.
Wow.
So
we more Africa than Africa?
Well, yeah. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I heard the Chinese.
Things get real in South Africa.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, people are trying hard. There's a little bit more to be done. A little bit more to be done.
Yeah, a lot.
Am I supposed to do it?
It got all deep on him. He was like, you know,
he had a moment.
He seized up.
Yo, when Garrett
All
says
of that-
more work
Are
to
you
be done,
verklempt?
you like, you talking about like right now? Like,
I didn't know
need
it was
to do?
on me. So I've been bestowed that responsibility. That's what's happening.
So, I mean, I guess tell us what you've seen in these last 30 years in beer and how it's developed, because I mean the last 30 years for me has just been like puberty and like
Snap. All right, you're gonna roll it like
30
that.
years of
That's
puberty.
all right. That's all right.
30 years of puberty. That's
You know,
I think I got a girlfriend once. Like, I mean, it's
I'll tell you my times right after the Civil War, but you know, no. It's interesting, you know. This the whole thing with craft beer. A lot of you aren't old enough to remember, you know, what it used to be like. And the craft beer scene, really, and this is an important thing to understand. The craft beer scene is just part of an entire movement of a recovery of the American food system. I grew up inside the Matrix. So, you know, when you went to the supermarket in the 1970s, 1980s, everything you saw was a lie. Every single last thing.
Bag of cheese.
Yeah, bag of cheese. There were 4 cheeses. There was one kind of bread. There was one kind of beer. There was also Guinness.
okay.
You know, which was the other stuff, which I started drinking at 16. And so, you know, I got to England. I moved to England. I got my film degree, and I intended to make films. My father was an art director for Y&R, so he was one of the earliest African Americans working at the very top of the advertising industry. If you saw Mad Men, that was the world that he was in. You know, and so when by the time he passed, he was a trustee of the Rhode Island School of Design. Milton Glaser, who designed, you know, our logo and everything else, his books were coffee table books in my house growing up. But we were strange people. Like we went to, you know, I was on a flight back from Ghana in 1974 when they announced to the plane that Richard Nixon had resigned the presidency.
Did they like stand up and cheer?
You didn't believe me when I said I was 400 years old, did you? You thought that was a joke.
I'm over here amazed by all these soft flexes
No,
throwing out about
you know
these
the
towels.
opening for like Wolverine where they show him in the Civil War and then he's in World War II and whatever else. That's me.
So basically, you Morgan Freeman's brother.
Yeah, exactly so. And so, you have to imagine there was no craft beer scene. There was no craft anything. And I got to England and I found that this beer, the stuff they called us beer, like that they were lying. There was all this other beer. And then I went to Europe and there were all these other beers. And then there was all this bread. And I still remember seeing my first cheese shop. You know, in Hollis, Queens, we didn't have a cheese shop. There was no cheese shop. You know, there were 4 cheeses. You know, and we knew, and I'm like, you know, there are hundreds of cheeses in here, and some of them are green, and they're covered in mold, and this place smells. What's that smell? And they say, it is the fromage, monsieur. And I'm like, I've seen all 4 cheeses, and none of them look like that. What is this? And I got home, and I realized, like, I was angry. I'm like, they lied to us. And the entire idea, I'm going to take you back, because everybody kind of needs, I think, to understand this. I'm going to make it really fast. The whole point, in the 1800s, late 1800s, we had 48 breweries in Brooklyn. They made 15% of all the beer in the United States. We had 4,000 breweries in the United States, and we made everything. We had everything. In a place like New York City, we had the most interesting food culture in the whole world because we had everybody from everywhere. If you did not like the food from where your people were from, say your people are from Campania, you're tired of Campanian food your mother's making you walk 15 minutes that way and you were in a different country, they spoke another language, and they had different food. New York City, and a lot of other places, a nation of immigrants about which we should be proud, you know, because...
Yeah. Fuck ice.
Because I travel all over the world, and nobody has a more interesting food scene than we do. Great food scenes, yes, but more interesting, more diverse, no. So we get into 1920, you got Prohibition. Now, we think Prohibition is an anti-alcohol movement. In fact, it is an anti-Catholic, anti-German movement. Remember, it's 1920.
Yeah.
Germans.
So the Catholics were like big drinking beer, getting all, you know what I mean?
Drinking
crazy,
beer
turnt?
on Sunday. Big deal back then. In those days, Protestants didn't drink on Sunday, but for Catholics, Sunday's the day for drinking.
To drink.
Yeah, that's the big drinking day. You follow the priest out of the church and into the pub. That's the classic.
It's the original cheat
No,
day.
I mean anybody who's been to Ireland, that's the classic. That's what you did. And imagine this. Okay, in 1920, 2 years after World War I, the meetings of the Master Brewers Association of the Americas were held in German. Okay, now remember, 20 years later, we were taking Japanese Americans and we were putting them in concentration camps. And as George Takei said, it's like, well, shouldn't you just call them internment camps? It's like, no, there are death camps and there are concentration camps. We put them in camps. And a lot of them were Americans. And we did that. So you can imagine what they thought of Germans in 1920, only a couple of years after World War I. So they wanted to shut all this down. The most important part, though, is we come out and it's a whole different world. 13 years, but so is 1990 to 2003. One is before the internet, one is after the internet. Completely different world. Roads, trucks, radio. And they said, you know what? If we could make everybody forget everything that they ever ate and drank before, and we made one version of each thing, and we sold them that thing, we could get all the money. Not some of the money, not our fair share of the money, all the money. And that was the idea of American capitalism. We will wipe your mind, and we will replace the things that you knew with everything, with all this garbage, and we will feed it to you every day until you believe it.
George Orwell.
And they did it. They did it. So you knew when you saw a loaf of bread and it had 50 ingredients, you knew in your heart that bread didn't have 50 ingredients.
Right.
You knew in your heart that bread, you ever made a loaf of bread? Somebody in your family made a loaf of bread?
No, I haven't.
I gave you a big chance, man.
I was with you till
You could have rolled right up in that shit and just said like, yeah, man, I made some yesterday.
I'm a Schwabels kid, man.
All right.
Just
Somebody
don't
in
tell
your
me
family made
Schwabel-
some bread.
So Schwabels is not official.
All right.
Wait.
You hurting me.
Anybody's family made some bread in here? All right. How long
How
does
was
a
it
loaf
shaped?
of bread stay fresh? A day, 2 days. Okay. A loaf of bread does not stay fresh in a bag for 2 weeks.
Even in the refrigerator?
The thing, even in the refrigerator.
What about on top of the refrigerator?
True.
Well,
12, y'all know what time it is.
12,
That top of the refrigerator
12,
bread.
12 hours on top of the refrigerator. 12 hours on top of the
I
refrigerator.
thought it lasted from one holiday to the next.
Yeah. No, they call that pain perdu, lost bread.
Shit.
Yeah, that's the you better lose that.
They
So
raised me wrong.
So you come out after a prohibition, we got everything, and we had this. We took actual food and we made food facsimiles. We took actual cheese and we made it into these melting slices, which cannot technically be called cheese because they are not cheese. Now good and goddamn well you can put a slice of that in your pocket and walk around with it for a month and then take it out and eat it. It won't be any different. That's not cheese. They told you it was cheese. It's a lie. It's a lie. The bread was not a bread, and the beer we were drinking was not beer. And I got back and I was angry, and I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not eating this shit anymore. I'm not drinking this shit anymore. I'm not cooking this anymore. I'm not having any more of that. They're gonna feed me, and my father was into it. It's like, I'm gonna eat real food. They took the real food away from us, and they gave us commerce. A facsimile of food that was meant to represent food but was not food. And I'm like, we did the same thing with beer. And as I was saying to people, it's like my entire career, people saying, wow, it must be fascinating for you, like an African American, to be making beer. It's like, we've been doing this for 5,000 years.
Been doing this shit.
5,000 years. 5,000.
Every single society, up and down Africa, east to west, every single society is based around the brew pot. It is always communal. There are museums full, of these things, sometimes based on sorghum, sometimes based on millet, sometimes on wheat, sometimes on barley, sometimes on fonio. But every single society, and then someone's got the nerve to walk up to you and say, it must be very nice for you that you've discovered this. It's like, really? Like that must be very beautiful for you to have seen it yourself, because I hope you enjoyed it. We gave it to you.
And then typically you're more well-traveled than these individuals that are coming up to you, so it's even a double slap in the face.
Yeah, well, look, they don't know. They don't know. It's fine to an extent, but I think that it behooves all of us to learn, where all of our cultures came from, and that this thing always belonged to us. Yeah. And not only us, I'm not interested in excluding anybody, but that non-exclusion includes us, because as I was saying before, it's like they say, oh, look, we have George Washington's recipe for whatever else. We have Thomas Jefferson's beer. We've got James Madison's beer. It's like, George Washington didn't brew anything.
Not a damn thing.
He did not brew anything, not himself. When you read the letters, he says, my man. My man.
Yeah.
Yeah, my man. All right.
Is that what Denzel got it
his
from?
man was the guy who knew how to do the brewing. And I'm not
have
saying,
a guy.
You gotta have a guy. And as Kwame has been teaching, many of us, haute cuisine, so many things, brought into this country, in the same kind of fashion and promulgated. So, the fact of the matter is, whether you're of European background or African background or Chinese background, we all been here a long time, and we've all been passing this stuff around. And American history is a lot more interesting when you actually know it.
Yeah.
And nobody gets excluded from anything. The only thing that happens is things become more interesting, they become deeper, and they become more meaningful, which is exactly what this is all about, as far as I'm concerned.
There it is.
I don't know how you feel, but I'm definitely about to die. Based on, how do you walk around with all that knowledge and then you give it to somebody and they just sit there like, you know what? Nothing I ate.
Yes. I'm over here trying to think, what did I eat this morning? Was that really a biscuit?
Mama's chili got a whole different feel about it.
Sausage.
No, it's like, no, my dad always told us we love those hot dogs. He's like, it's like those are made of cow lips, right? Cow lips, cow noses, whatever else. I'm like, them the most delicious noses I ever heard.
It's like, you cook it up.
It's like, yep. I'm like, hog maws. Like I'm ready to eat all of that. But there's a difference between knowing what it is that you're eating, and you said I decide to eat some hog maws, ground up and whatever else, and then saying, well, I just don't care what it is that I'm going to eat. And the fact of the matter is,
do y'all know what hog maws is? All right. I don't usually see this many black people in the room like this, so I had to stop. For the whiter folks, it's pig balls. You know what I mean? So I'm sorry.
No, we got. Look, I've eaten some things. It's like you get out to in the countryside in China. You start eating some things that we don't. There's only been a couple of things where I'm like,
meat?
I'm pretty good. There are a few things I'm like, nah, man.
I don't know what part that is.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a lot of brains, man. Did you have to put a white sauce on it, man? Like it didn't have to jiggle like that. You could have fried that shit up.
I'm not part of this conversation.
You shouldn't be.
I've already conceded.
I tried to get out of that conversation as soon as I got into it. Brains. I work very hard every day. You know why? So I don't have to eat brains. That's why I have a job.
Cheers.
Here's to that.
Cheers to not eating brains. I don't know if they got any out there in the food carts or whatever. I don't want to throw anybody on. So if you're into brains, there might be some out there. I don't know.
We got to vet them a little better next year. We got to have Garrett vet the food vendors.
No, it's like you got Kwame. It's all you need.
All right.
He might. He could feed you some brains though. You better be careful.
Yeah, I don't know.
You never know.
That dude. He's like one of those top chefs. So he wanted to. He's used to those secret ingredients and shit. I don't know what he brought here. We got to ask.
Well, I'm appreciating, what Mike and you and all these guys are bringing to this, because I'll tell you, a few years ago, I got a phone call out of the blue, and I was in Slovenia, which is part of the former.
He's been flexing on us this whole time. That's the 19th country.
Not even a made-up country.
The 19th country you'd have mentioned.
Yeah.
You've been mentioning countries that he ain't even do nothing in.
I'm in wine country, and a guy calls up, and he wants to ask me, he's from whatever paper, and he wants to ask me whether I thought that given the paucity of African Americans, in craft beer, whether I thought that craft beer was somehow racist. And I told him, it's like, I don't mean to be rude to you, but that's a stupid-ass question. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, have you noticed the country that you live in? Have you noticed that you did not see any black people at your job? Have you noticed that you do not see them, in the fine dining restaurant, either as servers, or in the kitchen, or as customers? Have you read, Margot Jefferson? Have you read the stuff that's out there that is there free for you to pick up? If you want to read Ta-Nehisi Coates, it's right there. It's a bestseller. You could read and have some understanding, but to come to me with this question. Now, this goes both ways, and I have to ask myself some questions. Why is it that I have people from Mali working for me? I got guys from Iraq working for me. I got guys from Haiti working for me. I got guys from, a Gambian guy is the main guy on our bottling line. Very technical, work. I've had one African American apply for a brewing job in 30 years. One.
Why do you think that is?
Why do I think that is? Well, I think that's a very complicated question, not a stupid question, a complicated question.
Right, so
and
my shit made it. My
and
question
so
made it. I'm
recently,
straight.
I've had some interesting conversations. And, they would go like this. It's like, well, we didn't think that you were going to be there to support. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? I always been here. Like, why didn't you come ask me? It's like, well, I didn't think that you would, blah, blah, blah. And back and forth. I didn't see you there. Well, I didn't see you there. And it's like, well, this is not a very constructive conversation. And I will tell you the thing, when I started to see things like this crop up, I'm coming out of the 60s and 70s. Somebody called me an elder last week. I don't know how to take that. But yeah, I came up, the whole idea of culture, of cultural literacy, of knowing your heritage and also everybody else's, is like, okay, when we had things that were ours, you came and took them, or you burned them, or you bombed them. How about this? We're going to roll up and take yours. And we're going to roll up and take yours. Everything, we're going to get better than you at the things that you thought you wanted to do, and we're going to take yours. And we're going to hang out with everybody, and we will have integration. We did not want segregation. We didn't want separate but equal. We wanted, like, hey, let's all hang out together. This was the dream of America. And this is what I grew up in, and this is the value system that I had. So when I saw, we got like a black this and a black this, I'm like, well, why do we, we're not supposed to need that. We're supposed to go in there and roll up and take what's ours in the first place and was always ours. And that we always belonged here, and we always belonged everywhere. But I came to realize that my parents, and we are very lucky, had given us a certain kind of armor plating, which you needed, to be a black man in the 60s and 70s coming up. My teachers, I went to a math science high school. My teachers did not tell me that the school existed. They did not tell me there was a test for it. I had a 95 average. There's like, that school's not for you. Then who the hell is it for? So, and that happens every day, right now, every day. So, our parents built us to say, I don't care if you're having dinner with the Queen of England. She's no better than you are. You know your manners, and she knows hers, and she better keep them. If she's...
that last part's important. That last part's important, though. To teach that you are to be respected as well.
Make sure she knows where the forks go, because you do.
Right.
And that's the way that we always rolled. So when I saw the whole thing kind of reversed, I said, I don't know how I feel about that. But what I see in the fact that no one's come to me in 30 years is the fact that my attitude, wherever it comes out of, is not working. The evidence of my own eyes is that the thing that I thought was going to happen, we would naturally populate everything. We would naturally populate the high-end kitchen. We would naturally populate, everything in society. That has not happened. And therefore, I have to reverse my mindset about that if we are actually going to have change, because I can keep my mind exactly where it was, and we can have the same thing in 30 years, and that's not what anybody wants. At least it's not what I want.
So, I mean, I feel like you're getting to the point of like meeting the people where they are. You know what I mean? Because, I have a social service background, and the thing is that we ask people, you can't ask people to come outside of their comfort zone. They're there because, they've been oppressed. They've been, they have the life that they have, and they don't even see it as an option, like you said. I mean, and we started, whenever we started out in comedy, we were like, yo, it's two black dudes. We're comedians. We're putting on these shows. Why are all these white people here? You know what I mean? We didn't get it. We just thought, by being black and putting on these shows that black people would come because they were like, oh, they're black, we're black, let's be black together.
That ain't how it works.
But that's not how it works. And the same thing, even
it actually works to the negative. Like when you black, you actually have to have proven. Y'all clap. Y'all don't like the guns? Oh, they must be musty. He musty. They put on a shirt. Yeah. Now he was just going on about how people didn't come to his shows, and then y'all start cheering for him getting a shirt.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think, even and with this festival was a thing that we had to also build into it. We did an event earlier this month, going to a, predominantly black neighborhood, lowering the cost of, the barrier, $5, just kind of and bringing the people, and having that safe space in that environment. This festival is that safe space for black people. You don't think about it. I mean, people don't think oh, well, you need to build a safe space for black people. What? Aren't they the most dangerous people in America? You know what I mean? According to the media. But it's dangerous for us to leave our environment. You know what I mean? We can get arrested or killed if we go into a neighborhood that we are the minority in. So we typically stick to ourselves. Most people stick to themselves. I mean, that's just how it is. But, we have been taught to do that. So you need to create these safe spaces so that people can come and try these things and lower some of those barriers. And I think I think you were it was to the point that you were saying meeting the people where they are, so that because and a lot of people, and it's weird because we've been told as black people that we shouldn't ask for help. We've been pounded oh, you welfare moms, oh, don't ask for handouts, but that's how all white people start out. They start out with handouts. You know what I mean? They're born and they come out and they ask for help. They get loans, they get they get inheritances, they get friends or whatever. They come out, they get jobs or whatever. And we don't have those same advantages. And we're also taught if you see a successful brother and you go, hey, you're successful, can you help me out? That's it's frowned upon in our culture. But it's not in the white culture. White people see successful people, they're like, yo, how can I get some of that? Yo, you owe me some of that, actually. And we don't.
Well, we feel like we came out the mud to get it. Now you do it the same way.
Yeah, you got to do it the same way.
But even in, it's funny, Eddie Murphy once had this routine about how, the black community was so much more conservative, than all of his white friends. It's they would talk to their mothers in ways that you could never, ever, ever think of talking to your mom or your dad or whatever. It's like you'd been, that would have been the end of the entire world. You ever spoke to your parents that way. And so, yeah, there is a certain conservatism. And I remember my mother telling me before we went out, we went over to somebody's house. Anybody asks you want some food? The answer is no. We fed you, we fed you at home. Yeah, have you heard this before? We fed your ass at home. No, you are not hungry. You are never hungry. You've never been hungry. And so that's the way we rolled. And we were no, we don't need anything from anybody ever. And learning how to accept help is a form of power. Learning how to accept help is a form of power. If you cannot ask for help, you are weak.
Right.
Yes.
Because you will not have anybody around you. You're gonna stand out there and claim in whatever thing that you did that you were a genius and you did this all by yourself. I'm sitting in my chair. I did not do this by myself.
Right.
I did not do this by myself. I point out to people on a regular basis, nobody can get to where I've managed to get, and I hope to get further without some help. And if you can't go ask people, hey man, can we maybe do something together or whatever else, you might, you might have to get used to no. Rejection does happen, But I thank my parents for giving us that as armor. It's like you go out there and you take, and you dig for it and you dig for it, you dig for it. And if the door closes, you kick it down. But we weren't looking for any safe spaces because there were no safe spaces anywhere to be had except for inside your own home. And even then, I remember playing with a flashlight, as an 8-year-old, with my brothers at night. And my dad came down and he was like, don't you ever turn on a flashlight in this house at night. The police will come into our house and shoot us all like dogs in our living room.
Shit.
I thought he was mad because you was wasting batteries. I said that.
My dad loved wasting batteries.
Double A's is like $8, yo.
No, but
I'm not spending $8 so you could play.
Well, my dad always said you could do whatever, you could do this and that in the house, but it's like don't you do that. Now everybody still has that talk. And that talk is just as true as it is today because the fact of the matter is, and you can't tell people why, they cannot understand it, we do not live in the same world that everybody else, does. That's just the truth. So, we better help each other. And I'm happy to help. I'm glad I'm able to help a guy from Iraq who came speaking no English and is now one of our best guys. That means a lot to me. And I don't care what your background is. My main barrel guy comes from Kentucky, and he didn't exactly come from money, himself.
No money in
well, there is, but it's not in beer. I can tell you that much. I think it might be a little bit around weed, but yeah, and and helping him become something else. So whatever your background is, all great if we're all sharing. But no one has come to me and said, hey, can you, give us a leg up? So I'm like, you know what? Let me get out there with you guys and other people, and let's say and tell people I am here and I've always been here.
So, yeah. Holla at your boy, Playboy Cardi.
Now, I know, we talked about safe space and all that, but I think a lot of it is, do you think people are just intimidated? Because we held a symposium yesterday, a couple of symposiums, and they were giving out keys. So people were asking for the information on how we can get this going, how we can move forward, how do we find financing, how do we, include, bloviate diversity and inclusion and whatnot. Now, you got a lot of swag about you, so you intimidating to begin with, just with the hat and all that, but it's hard to come up with a dude with that much swag, be like, yo, help me.
Yeah. It's like, you get to my age, you realize the only thing you can do is get better dressed. You can't
run.
You ain't gonna get no better looking. It's like this. Everything else you might have hoped for that might have happened. You can get better dressed though. You can always do that.
Also, so my girl likes me to put my clothes on as opposed to taking them off. That's what's up.
No, I can be intimidated by two guys, half my age, or I can roll up in some swag. But the funny thing is, I used to dress, a lot of times I would dress sometimes even in a suit, or I'd wear a tie or whatever else, and people would say, oh, why don't you dress like so-and-so? Why don't you dress like everybody else? Why don't you dress like Sam Calagione from Dogfish Head? Now, Sam's a good-looking guy. He used to be a model, and I told him, Sam's wearing a white T-shirt. If I rolled up in here wearing a white T-shirt, people would assume that I was homeless.
Yeah, we can't.
People would ask me stupid-ass questions, and it's by wearing a certain kind of clothes, you wouldn't dare ask me the questions you were thinking of asking me. When I come in front of you, dressed like this. So I'm gonna, rather than get angry, I'm going to shut your questions down before you even get started, and now you look at me and you see who you're looking at, and that question you were thinking of asking, you ain't going to go there. Let's talk about the work and the thing that I came here to talk to you about, not oh, did you make this up in your mom's bathtub or some crap like that. People used to, first, of course, people used to walk right past me. They came to meet Garrett Oliver and would walk right past me, look through me.
To your assistant.
To my assistant, who was from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Kurt was a perfectly nice guy, but, he was a standard dude that you'd see at a beer festival, and it was he was a tall white guy, whatever else. And they walk up to him and say, hey, Garrett, nice to meet you. And that was before anybody, knew what I looked like. And the thing is that I am shielded from that now by the fact that within this realm, that doesn't happen anymore. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen to a bunch of other brothers in the room whose names are not known right now. I'm sure it happens to some of them every single damn day.
My name is Edward Bailey. It happens to be all the time.
Garrett Thurston Oliver.
I am, you don't need to know my government name, Bracy.
Yeah. What's your real name?
So we want to open up the questions to the. Okay. So do you know Dapper Dan? Is that the?
Do I know? I do not know Dapper Dan. I would love to know
Dan.
Dapper
Is that a
Dan.
stupid ass question?
He's a
That's one of the stupid ass. He's like, listen, man.
No,
we don't
funny
know,
thing-
we
no.
don't all know each other, motherfucker. Like New York is big as fuck. Like,
No, the one that people used to ask me all the time is, do you know Neil deGrasse Tyson? You know, because you're like, you both got that, that 60s, 70s haircut. You both have a very similar voice. You both talk about science things and whatever else. You Negroes must know each other. And it's like, and for a long time, of course, I didn't. And then I do some speaking engagements for National Geographic. And, Neil deGrasse Tyson was there, and I said, like, you won't believe this. First of all, our families, whatever else, have a bunch of connections. But people are always asking me whether I know you, and we got to do this selfie. And he looked confused. Because he never heard of Garrett Oliver, I'm sure. But we did a picture, and it was funny.
So tell us about this beer here,
Oh, this is
because it
this
is very delicious.
Thank you.
I don't know if y'all had that or not.
Yeah, we passed them out.
I don't know if y'all
we
had
passed
it.
them out.
This is
So
for
hopefully,
beer. If you haven't had any,
hopefully nobody's bogarting on you. If you have drunk half the bottle yourself, it is about now. It's about now that you will discover that it is 9%.
Wait a minute. What we got is 9%?
Good luck getting down the stairs.
This is 9%?
From the top row of the bleachers where you thought nobody could see you drinking that bottle yourself. Because it might not go so well for you. Good thing them shits is padded. You might bounce once before you hit the floor. 9%, Belgian Strong Golden.
No,
it was the first beer that we ever did, which was
this is 9%. This
9%.
Doesn't
But
drink like a
smooth.
9. People say that all the time on this cast, like it doesn't drink like a 9. But this really, I would have never.
No,
Never guessed that it's a 9.
the process of re-fermentation in the bottle. Re-fermentation in the bottle, so that beer goes into the bottle completely flat and gains all of its carbonation completely through the secondary fermentation. Now here is a good example, though, of help. Not maybe within our community, but at the brewery. Nobody in the United States knew how to do this. There were people who said that they did, but I looked into what they were doing. They didn't. A lot of the Belgian breweries that said they were doing it weren't doing it. Found a guy working at a brewery in Belgium, St. Bernardus. He was in between jobs. I said, could you come to New York City and teach us? Changed everything that we were going to do. And when he came in, I said, okay, I'm brewmaster. I'm in charge of this place. But for the next 3 days, Bert is brewmaster. I stand down, and now Bert teaches us everything, that we know. And we are going to be angry. We're going to be pissed off. We're going to feel stupid because we're really good at what we do. And we've been doing the same thing for years, and we're good at it. And now we will become incompetent. And this is going to cause unhappiness because we don't want to be incompetent. I want to be in charge and a leader, and I will not be leader for the next few days. But on the other side of this, we will be much better brewers than we were before, and we will become competent again, and we will be at a different level. And once I had learned how to do this, and there was nowhere in any language that you could read how to do re-fermentation in a modern brewery. It actually didn't exist. It was passed down in families. So as soon as we learned to do it and do it well, the first thing that I did was in 2008 at the conference, I started giving talks on how to do this. If any of you wants to know how to do this, send me an email. My email is goliver@brooklynbrewery.com. I will tell you.
With it.
He just Mike Jones.
Wow.
He's just 28133 older.
No,
Call me.
I'm telling you, I will tell you absolutely everything. And if you have a problem with it, we will help you out with the problem. Because our outlook is like, look, I'm doing fine. It's like, you want to bring it.
Yeah.
I will give you, when you watch one of these kung fu movies, you hand the other guy, here's a sword, and now I have one. Let's see what you got. It's like I'm ready to get down when it comes to that, or we'll do a collaboration, or whatever. But I didn't make this up. Somebody taught me.
So you were giving keys. So you give keys.
Exactly that.
It is important, even at his level, though, being able to humble himself and be like, yo, I can learn something.
I don't know if he humbled himself. He said www.getyourbeerright.com. Man, I mean, I got these over here. I know this shit.
I never say things like that in public. If you got anything wrong with your beer, I might take you aside and said,
I wonder how many people are going to get a little sad over here today. Like, hey, come here, young lad.
No, I have not. Everything I've tasted so far has been really nice.
Nice. So is that why it's bubbling like that from the?
Yeah, it has a higher level of carbonation. It's about more than half again as carbonated as their standard beer. So that's at about 4 volumes of CO2, where your average is 2.6, 2.7, and it's you can only really get that from that secondary fermentation in the bottle.
Well, I have a beer culture question.
All right.
At what level of ABV, if you're able to brew and make something that smooth, at what level of ABV do you have to tell me before I drink?
Good question.
Surprising me with a 9.
I'd say above 7, you should tell somebody something.
Because I had something, and then you said it was.
I'm like three.
If you had been drinking this glass, I would have told you earlier. But I figured everybody's had these little glasses, so there's only so much trouble you can get yourself in, unless you had 5 of them, in which case you're an asshole. So,
I mean, like I said, I'm about 3 into this. So
because you've been hogging it for yourself, and now you're gonna fall down the stairs. It's like that's your own damn fault. That's not my fault.
Got to take responsibility.
So how do you...
Says right here, I am responsible for Friday evening.
Yeah, I didn't read that.
I am not responsible for Saturday morning. Says right here. Read the fine print.
So how do you, as a brewer, hide the ABV? I mean, how do you brew a beer that is high ABV but isn't all boozy? I mean, because I remember, I would say, when I first got into it 5-6 years ago, started drinking a 9. When you taste it, you felt all of that 9, and it feels like brewers are starting to get better at hiding that. I've had 10 and 11% beers that drink 6 and 7s, and you're like, well, how do brewers hide that?
It's partly the way you do your fermentation. The way you're doing your fermentation is going to give off those higher alcohols that signify, heat, and give you that kind of flashiness that you would otherwise get. The bottle conditioning does that. Age will help. Barrel conditioning can help with that. But a lot of it is technique, and we're getting, as brewers in the United States, better and better and better, at doing these things, so that in this particular beer, that residual sweetness that you might feel like you taste is actually alcohol. Alcohol tastes sweet. The beer does not actually have high residual sugar. In fact, this is notably drier than Brooklyn Lager, but it tastes sweeter because the alcohol tastes sweet, and that becomes part of the flavor profile. So for Brooklyn beers, what I always want to see is structure, balance, and elegance. I'm trying to create something which is really nice to drink. I'm not a little kid. I'm not interested in having the bitterest, strongest, hoppiest, whatever else. That's for children. That's like, talking about chef. Oh, I put more salt in this stew than you've ever had before. I'll bet you're not man enough to eat this much salt. You're not worthy. You can't even handle this much salt, can you? Anyway, we'd be like, you're crazy. You've obviously lost your mind. It's like we're just trying to make something that we hope is delicious. And one thing that's important is, and I think as all of us go out there, especially in this community, we owe it to everybody who spends money on our beer to do everything we can to bring quality. Because if you're not working on quality, if you're not, stringent about it, what that is disrespect. It's disrespect for your customer. This bottle of beer costs $10, or so. Somebody might have gone and worked an hour, somewhere at a job they don't even like to make enough money to buy this beer. And then through ego, you're going to have an attitude like, oh, it's fine, when you know that it's not what it should be. That's disrespect. You know, and that is something that we, you know.
Get your ethics up.
No, I feel strongly, you know, we have to feel lucky that people are willing to give us money for something that we enjoy doing. You know, and if you don't think that you're lucky, you know, to be able to do this, then you have the wrong head on. You know, and if you're coming to this from ego and you think that you're special, it's like, you know what? If your brewery burned down in the morning, my brewery disappeared, I disappeared, the river keeps on flowing, man. Like, it has got nothing to do with you. Yeah. You know, it's like you threw your little rock and you made a splash, and then, you know, when you were gone and the river is still there, you know, you know, and your rock is gone and everything else, nobody's gonna remember your shit. You know, so, you know, get it right today for this person who spent money that they worked a job at to make that money. You know, that's who you're working for. You know, and that's super important. You know, if my name is on the box, you know, or my signature's on there, that represents a promise, and I better keep it.
Nice.
That is
nice.
That's actually a great transition.
Yeah.
This man's of the people, for the people. And so now, you know, we've had an opportunity to have a conversation with Mr. Oliver, but we will open it up to the audience for questions now.
Yeah, and let's just be very clear. We got about 30 seconds, man. Last time we did
no dissertations.
Motherfuckers was doing dissertations and shit. Like, I mean, let me read you.
Know what you want to say before you get to the mic.
Yeah, man. You got 30 seconds to ask your questions, and then we're going to give it a couple of minutes for Mr. Oliver to.
You get 2 ums. Yeah. All right. 2 fam.
No.
What's good?
Don't worry,
Mike went on first.
I'm not going anywhere. We'll be outside hanging out, drinking some beer, so don't worry about it.
Clear your throat.
Yo, what's good? Brandon Montgomery, San Diego. Question: how do you decide on which research and development beers to put out in the market?
That's a really good question. We do all kinds of research and development beers. You know, some of them are what we call the ghost bottles, which are all the things that we make that we don't actually sell, and some of them are too small or whatever else, or too difficult to do on a commercial basis. But I mean, recently we started doing some stuff with Pierre Chiem, you know, the Senegalese chef, for example. And in that case, I was looking at that as an African grain, et cetera. He's looking to pay, you know, really good prices back to indigenous farmers throughout Central Africa. This is a grain that thousands of years ago was widely used for brewing. It happens to make some great flavors, and I'm looking at, well, can we reach different communities? Can we do something for farmers? Can we put our money where our mouth is and make a beer, you know, that is delicious, and show out by saying, "No, yeah, I know you never heard of this before, but now, like here it is." Because I mean, I remain competitive, and like I want to get there before you. Like I still want to get there before you. It's like I'll hand it over later, but I want to be there first. You know, so you get to do everything at once. And I look at something, it's like, okay, what has nobody seen before? Rather than let's do the same juicy IPA over and over again. Love them when they're good, but it's like I don't want to repeat other people's work.
Nice.
How do we get our hands on one of them ghost bottles?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, where are them ghost bottles at?
Let's talk about it. We'll talk about it after. I'll talk about it.
We'll book a flight to Brooklyn.
We'll talk about it.
Hello. Thank y'all for this conversation. It's been really informative. My name's Tinu Dever. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and most of my work is based in Durham, North Carolina. We have a few breweries in North Carolina. And I'm currently researching a project trying to explore how a craft that, as you've mentioned, started in Africa in the Fertile Crescent, became so synonymous with white blue collar culture in the U.S. So I'd be interested in any initial thoughts that you have about that, since you seem to have such a deep, particularly Mr. Oliver, since you have such a deep kind of a history around beer and beer culture, whether that has to do with just kind of, I don't know, the way that beer was advertised, or I'd just be interested in your initial thoughts about that.
Well, you know, I think that, you know, a lot of advertising around big beer, part of the matrix was selling beer as, you know, exclusive. They wanted to fish where the fish are, where they thought the fish were in a certain way, and look past us and, you know, and denigrate women. You know, so you'd see all these misogynist ads, that told women that beer wasn't for them when traditionally it was the women who were doing the actual brewing.
Including my grandmother, which I recently learned. Yeah.
So, I think that there's a lot of blame to go around, and if you want to shine that back in our direction, it's like, look, we don't advertise, and where did we go when we go to look for something? I mean, yeah, we were the first supporters of the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival and whatever else. We try to, be out there in the community, but basically we showed up with whoever invited us, and when we got there, you had the crowd that you had, but we weren't going looking for inclusion or looking to rope in bunches of people on purpose. We're like, we've come to the party, and this is where the party is. I think that changing your outlook on that is important, but also a lot of what I'm trying to do is understand, and respect the customer, and it's something that I'm not proud of, but there were years ago where I would look out in the crowd and I see 82-year-old lady and she's got a blue rinse, and I'm wondering, like, what the hell is she doing here? Like, I'm going to be pouring lambics and smoked beers and whatever else. I don't think that, I don't know how she ended up here, but I don't know if she can handle it. And who's that old dude? And whatever else. I thought I knew that our customer looked a certain way because I got brainwashed by the same culture that we're putting out. And then at the end of the tasting, she comes up and says, wow, this is the best imperial stout I ever had. And she wants to know, like, where exactly, what kind of Brett was going on. And you're like, what? And then you realize, like, I'm sitting here, she's older than me, and I have judged her in advance, for being a woman, for being older, for being this, for being that, which is exactly the same goddamn thing that they did to me, and I was doing it to her unconsciously. So what I do now is like, everybody's flat. I don't care who you are, where you come from. I'm going to present it to you. I'm going to tell you why it's interesting and what it is and what it tastes like and what you might do with it. And then you decide what you're going to do with it. But I don't talk down to anybody anytime anymore. And I think that's super important in everything that we do. And that by itself does something, I hope.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, got to remove that unconscious bias.
Nice.
2 arms, fam.
This is gonna be short. Nigel from Kansas City asked this question yesterday at the symposiums. In Kansas City, I go to breweries all the time. I'm generally the only person of color. What a surprise! Right, that's what they said yesterday. What would be your strategies to reach out to some people of color and say, "Hey, let's get into some of these breweries"? Because I think part of it is they just don't know. But I'm looking for maybe your advice and going back and saying, "Hey, maybe we could do this, that, or the other." To get some of our people to experience this, that they don't know anything about it. What do you say about that?
Well, I think that you guys are actually doing it. I am learning here today things from you about how to do that myself, because being here for 30 years, I am personally insulated, from a lot of the things that you might deal with. People just won't do that with me anymore, so I got the shields up. And you got to realize that not everybody had these advantages. They may be intimidated by a situation. They might be intimidated by me. They might look at the room and look in there and say, well, those don't look like my people. And so going to where people actually are, supporting the things that they're interested in. I've started doing some work through the Brownsville Community Center, in New York, which teaching, local, mostly African-American kids how to do the fine dining, thing, whether it's in the kitchen, et cetera, exactly what Kwame, is doing at a much higher level, in the stuff that he's doing. So I think it's just a matter of being present, not only, in the places where the stream naturally takes you, but it's like, okay, the stream's going this way. I'm going to go this way to actually do something that has a purpose to it beyond, hey, let's sell some beer and throw the same party over and over and over again with the same people.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Change the culture. We sick of these parking lot. We sick of these parking lot festivals, man. Throw those pizzazz.
Well, I don't understand tailgating. It's like, we worked really hard to get into the stadium, and now people are having a thing in the parking lot. I don't know about that.
You gotta have tickets to get in.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
You just gotta have a truck to tailgate.
Yeah, I know. There's like plenty of black folks, tailgating. It's like, I'm from New York, so I'm like, I got new cultural things to learn.
There you go.
My name is Winston, Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn in the building.
Brooklyn's in the building.
Yeah, look at that hat.
The reality is that one of your beers was my gateway into craft beer, the Brooklyn Monster, back in 2011.
Well, thank you, sir.
You know, and my first part of my question is, would you ever bring that back? Because anybody who has never had that is one of the most fantastic beers that has ever been made. And two, what is the beer style that you have found the most difficulty making?
Two good question. Well, one, maybe moss will come back in some form. We've done other barley wines. We want to expand, the kinds of barley wines that we make. Right now, we have one called Capitalism, which is aged for a year in sherry barrels. So that's like, kind of the current one. So all of them have some monster in them. That one's available only on draft, but just put some on up at Harlem Hops, up in Harlem, New York. So was visiting those guys a few weeks back. Great place, great people. Bringing craft beer into that community. But the second, straight up Pilsner is really, you got to be on it every day, to brew Pilsner, because there's nowhere to hide, there's no extra flavors, etc. You either got it or you don't. So if I wanna go see whether somebody is really good, I'll drink their Pilsner first. It's like, the French chef says, go ahead and make me an omelet. And you think, well, an omelet's simple. It's like, not in front of a French chef, it's not. Simplest thing in the world, but really, really, really difficult to do it at the level that a French chef wants to see. Pilsner's the same way. If you can impress a German with your Pilsner, then you kind of have it,
Nice.
All right.
So, before we wrap up, I have a question, and it's stupid as shit, but I don't know. Texture is a thing. Food is a thing. I'd imagine you're, a connoisseur of food, and you love all that. What is your favorite form of potato?
Oh.
Why do you keep doing this?
Wow, that is really difficult.
What is your favorite form of potato?
That is very difficult. I have so many stories to tell about potatoes.
Everybody does. Potatoes are very.
I'm talking about
potato stories.
Trying to do and messing up. I do great mashed potatoes, but I was trying to do that kind of classic French potato puree that's like half butter. And I kept messing it up, for a while, and finally got it down last year for Christmas after asking 3 chefs how they do it in a professional kitchen because I'd always ended up with a gummy mess. So I can do that now. But the thing that I do most often, cue the potatoes up, parboil them for like 4 minutes, let them dry out for a couple of minutes, and then toss them in a wok in duck fat.
Why you keep swagging on us? Why you gotta keep swagging on us?
Yo, man, you don't even know. Them shits get all crunchy, like on the outside, and they were like really pillowy on the inside. You never had in them?
No, I ain't done nothing.
You need to
with
come
a
over,
duck.
man.
Nothing.
Like, what you been doing?
Nothing with a duck.
Yo,
It's gonna swag on us.
Everybody eats potatoes, and there's so many different forms.
No.
It's a texture thing. It's
Yeah,
all
but
texture.
they took the ducks from us too. We didn't have any ducks when I was growing up.
ducks?
Yeah, there was no ducks. There was no lamb.
I thought ducks were like poisonous. Like
Yeah, and that's what they told you, man. They
see
told you
ducks
the
in
ducks
a
was
pond
poisonous.
You see ducks in a pond in East Cleveland. You're not touching them.
You
Yeah,
eat,
well,
pigs. Like, we eat pigs. We eat all kind of wild shit. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but you all right.
You said ducks are
Yeah.
poisonous.
I'm telling you,
You ain't
go
eating
get
a
some.
duck.
Duck fat is a beautiful. Duck fat, I will tell you, is liquid at room temperature. Not
So
like
how-
that stuff that my mom had in the Crisco can. That was solid. Like no matter what you did to it, unless you
it was
put a
the
big
good
flame
fat.
under it.
It was the
It's
good
it's
fat.
good fat, but duck fat is good for you as well as actually tasting amazing. So.
See, y'all thought it was
word
stupid.
for it. I ain't fucking with that.
No, go ask
Now
Mom.
you're-
He'll
now-
tell you about that duck fat.
Yeah, now y'all about to go out and get them duck fat fries.
Yeah, duck fat fries, man. I'm telling you right now.
Not your boy. All right, look.
All right.
Well,
But you could be. I'm gonna send you some. I'm gonna send you a jar.
That jar will be here at Fresh Fest 2020. It will be.
Yeah.
It'll be full. It probably won't have decomposed. It'll have a loaf of bread next to it. Schwabels.
Yeah.
So look. We got to wrap this up because we got like a whole ass festival that's.
we got 3,000 people coming to this
Yeah.
motherfucker here.
Woo!
This
So
is
we
just
want
the
to
beginning.
We just want to allow, a lot of people were looking forward to this. I know I was. We want to just allow the crowd just to give you a round of applause and appreciate, what you came, the information you bestowed upon us, taking your time out to come chill with us.
Well,
So enlightening, so crazy. This is what the festival is, though.
I want to appreciate not only you guys, but all the people also in the room who are not out of the African American community, but are here with us in this room, doing this thing, enjoying the same things, and in a way embodying the idea that we always had, that we were all supposed to be in the same damn room in the first place, having a good time,
Facts.
which is the point.
Facts. Facts.
And trying to make it happen. So no matter what your background is, if you're here, you are one of us. And that is the most important thing, that we all have a good time together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's about. You can't have togetherness around beer. You are in some hot shit trouble.
Yeah, there are 45 collaboration beers out there, and this is also a collaboration here as well.
Yes.
So I mean, give it up for yourself for being inclusive and getting the fucking the picture, man.
Yeah, so we got to do the business of the cast because not everybody was here today. Let the people know who were listening, where they can find us, because we need downloads on this.
Hey, man, if you're looking for us, you can find us on epicastnetwork.com/partnerspod. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, Google Play, and Spotify under Drinking Partners. You can find us on IG, Twitter, and Facebook at PartnersPod.
Once again, we got to thank our guest, Garrett Oliver, for coming through. We got to thank Work Hard and Epicast for the live stream. They make this all possible. They make us seem professional because we really just up here drinking and talking shit. As always, Drinking Partners is the crew. Epicast is the family. Fresh Fest is the business. And we about to go out.
Good night and thank you.